Well, hey, this is Brett, and I want to continue our series on grief. In the last video, Dr. Taylor shared that grief can have many faces, right? So not all the times, when does grief occur? Is it just because we've lost a loved one or a friend? It could be many different things, right? So things like a job loss, or really I think we see a lot of today is a loss of normalcy or a loss of routine. And so we know that grief looks like many different things. But let's talk about some of our responses. And I've got some tips for you, because I think a lot of times we have natural responses that we feel are the right responses, but for some of us, actually it's not the best for our grief. And so really what I want to start with is the first tip is be gentle with yourself. Right? So a lot of us feel maybe that we're not doing well, or we want to avoid grief. But grief is a normal, common response for us, right? So when we have a loss of a job or a loss of friendship, a loss of normalcy, those things happen, and those things are not fun, right? So it's okay to feel grief. It's okay to feel sad some of these times, and so be gentle with yourself. You may feel tempted to put a timeline on your grief. And for some individuals that helps them, but for a lot of us, we feel like we have to get back in the swing of things. Maybe it's the start of the next week, or maybe it's a certain time of the day, or okay, by this point I want to be over it and I'm moved on. I want to tell you that tip number 2 for you is to avoid that. Avoid putting a timetable on your grief. Let your body grieve naturally. One of the things that we know is that grief doesn't care about timelines. It doesn't care about things going on with your job or things going on, extracurricular activities. It doesn't care about relationships or anything like that. Grief is on its own time, and it's going to, it's your body trying to force you to slow down and take a step back. Number 3, and I think this happens to a lot of us, especially me, tip number 3 about dealing with grief is that grief is not a competition. I think a lot of times we think that, we're actually doing okay. We shouldn't feel this sadness or this grief because, my grandparents went through harder times, or maybe my friend in the next cubicle over is going through way worse times. And so I'm not allowed to feel grief because my life is a little better off than theirs. I'm here to tell you to give you some freedom in that. It's not a competition, like I said. Let yourself grieve, and it's okay that maybe you can't stack up with all the other trials or the tribulations that people are going through. It doesn't make light of what you're going through, though. Tip number 4, and this is pretty practical. A lot of times when we're grieving, we need to sleep more. And the reason why is that grief is exhausting. So for some of us, it means that we need to take care of our bodies more, eat better diet, exercise, absolutely. But for some of us, the best response is to take a nap. Don't try to power through it. A lot of times we're waking up in the middle of the night, going through a lot of these different things in our head, and we don't realize how much little sleep we're getting during those times. The fifth thing, and really this is kind of the final piece, is don't pressure yourself to get back to normal. For a lot of us, we have a new normal now, right? So when we're going through grief, we may not have any normalcy in place, and that's okay. Allow yourself to wait before making big decisions. A lot of times we talk about sleeping on it before you make a big decision. The same thing holds true for grief, is that we should let ourselves take a step back, think through where things are at, and then assess and move forward. I hope these were helpful for you today. Again, if we share it with you anything today, it's to be gentle with yourself, let yourself grieve, let yourself be okay with the emotions you're feeling, because again, these are our body's natural responses, and they're trying to tell us something. Thanks so much, and I hope you continue on with our grief session next with Claire.